Imagine a plant that doubles every 48 hours. Not in a high-tech lab, not under perfect conditions, in a bucket, in a ditch, in any patch of still water you can find. One handful today, two handfuls by Tuesday. By the end of the week, it has filled your bathtub. In 30 days, you are looking at a literal ton of biomass. This isn't hyperbole. It is pure, relentless mathematics. Scientists call it lemna. The world calls it duckweed. And you have been trained to hate it. Look at that green film on the pond. That scum you find disgusting. That film is actually the most efficient protein production system ever discovered. Dry it out, and it's 45% protein. For context, beef is 26%. Eggs are 12%. This isn't just plant protein that needs a side of rice to be useful. This is complete, all 9 essential amino acids. Exactly what your body needs grown in a puddle. 1 square meter of water, 30 days. Enough fuel to keep a human being alive for a month. No soil required, no tractors, no expensive fertilizers, no back-breaking labor, just sunlight and water. So why is it missing from our shelves? Why is the fastest growing crop on Earth labeled as an invasive nuisance? Follow the money. An acre of duckweed produces 10 times more protein than soybeans, 20 times more than corn. It doesn't just grow, it cleans. It sucks up nitrogen, phosphorus, and heavy metals. It takes toxic agricultural runoff and transforms it into life-sustaining nutrition. It is a self-cleaning, self-replicating survival machine. But the West forgot. Or rather, we were told to forget. Southeast Asia never did. In Thailand, they call it kai nam water eggs. In Vietnam and Laos, it has been harvested from rice paddies since before we had written records. This wasn't a food of desperation. It was the foundation of civilizations. Ancient Chinese texts from 200 BCE describe farmers using it to create the healthiest fish stocks in the region. If you want to reclaim this knowledge, here is the protocol. First, find a still water source, a pond, a tank, or even a plastic bin. Second, ensure maximum surface area. Depth doesn't matter. Surface is where the magic happens. Third, harvest daily. Removing half the crop triggers the remaining plants to stay in their aggressive exponential growth phase. Fourth, rinse and dry. We are told that world hunger is a problem of scarcity, that we need more chemicals, more GMOs, more industrial control. But the solution is floating in every ditch in the countryside. It's not scum. It's a revolution hiding in plain sight. Stop looking for a miracle and start looking at the pond. Look at the surface of a stagnant pond. Most see scum, a nuisance, a sign of neglect. NASA saw a miracle. In 1985, they were searching for the perfect space crop. The requirements were impossible. It had to grow in tiny spaces, recycle human waste, pump out oxygen, and provide complete nutrition. They found lemna, duckweed. This isn't an exaggeration. This is mathematics. 1 hectare of this green film can produce 140 tons of dry protein per year. To get that same ton from soybeans, you'd need 140 times the land. It doubles its mass every 48 hours. Handfuls become carpets. Carpets become harvests. 45% protein. A perfect amino acid profile. 99% nitrogen removal. It is the most efficient protein production system ever discovered on Earth. And for centuries, we didn't just know about it. We lived by it. Go back to 1590. A Portuguese missionary stands by a rice paddy in Southeast Asia watching a miracle he can't explain. He sees villages growing meat without pastures. No bags of fertilizer. No imported feed. Just a perfect closed loop. The duckweed grew on the water's surface, feeding on the heat. Fish lived beneath, eating the excess. Pigs and chickens ate the harvest from the edges. Their waste fertilized the water. The duckweed cleaned it again. 0 external inputs. Total resilience. Then the empires arrived. Colonial logic didn't value integrated cycles. It valued land ownership, monoculture, and exports. They called these traditional systems primitive. They drained the wetlands. They replaced the green film with industrial rows. Within 2 generations, the knowledge was buried, except in the margins, among the poorest communities in Bangladesh, in the backyard ponds of rural Myanmar, among people too remote to be modernized. They kept growing the fastest protein on Earth, while the rest of the world learned to call it a weed. If you want to reclaim this efficiency, follow the protocol. First, secure a source of lemna. It exists in almost every climate. Second, create a shallow, still water environment. Depth doesn't matter. Surface area is everything. Third, integrate. Use it to treat your gray water. Feed it to your livestock. Use the excess as a high nitrogen mulch for your garden. That scum you've been trained to find disgusting is actually the key to a post-industrial food system. Nature's abundance was never gone. It was just waiting for us to look at the water again. They call it pond scum, a nuisance, a green film that chokes the life out of a backyard pond. But in 37 states, this scum is a legal liability. It's classified as an invasive threat. Possession can lead to fines. Cultivation requires permits. Why? Because this isn't just a plant. It's a glitch in the global food matrix. Let's look at the math. This is not exaggeration. This is pure biology. In 2014, researchers at the University of Jena fed duckweed lemna to human subjects. The results were startling. 93% digestibility, a complete amino acid profile that rivals egg protein, a mild nutty flavor, zero adverse effects, but the efficiency is where it gets dangerous for the status quo. In Dhaka, they ran a pilot. They fed raw sewage into duckweed lagoons. The plant didn't just survive, it feasted. It stripped 95% of the nitrogen and 70% of the phosphorus. It turned waste into clean irrigation water. Then they harvested the plant. They fed it to fish. They fed it to people. The cost, less than 10 cents per kilogram of protein. Compare that to the $400 billion animal feed industry. Soybeans require massive infrastructure. They need annual seed purchases, chemical pesticides, and millions of acres of cleared forest. Duckweed requires a plastic container and a handful of green leaves from a ditch. No seeds to buy, no fertilizer to trade, no equipment to lease. It grows faster than supply chains can justify. It doubles its biomass in 48 hours. The World Bank spent 17 years reviewing the data across 12 countries. Their 40-page conclusion boiled down to one terrifying sentence for industrial agriculture. Duckweed is the most resource-efficient protein source available to humanity. Period. The science is settled. The data is overwhelming. So why isn't it in your grocery store? Because you can't monetize what people can grow for free in a bucket. They tell you it's an aquatic nuisance to protect the ecosystem. But we've already converted 1 billion acres of wilderness into corn and soy monocultures. No one banned those. The nuisance isn't ecological, it's economic. If you want to step outside the system, here is the protocol. First, find a local source. It's everywhere. Second, create a shallow, still water environment. A simple tub will do. Third, ensure a steady supply of organic nutrients, even compost tea works. Fourth, harvest daily. The more you take, the faster it grows. Finally, dry it or eat it fresh. We have been conditioned to find abundance disgusting. We've been trained to overlook the solution hiding in plain sight. It's time to stop calling it scum. It's time to call it what it is, the end of artificial scarcity. Look at the water. The revolution is already growing there. You just have to reach out and take it. Look at that green film choking the local pond. Most people see a nuisance, an eyesore, pond scum. But if you look at the mathematics, you see something else entirely. You see the most efficient protein production system ever discovered on Earth. Protein powders and bars rely on massive factories, plastic waste, and premium marketing. Duckweed. It costs less to grow than the tub you put it in. So why isn't it in every grocery store? Because of a very convenient label, invasive. By classifying this plant as a biological threat, commercial cultivation becomes a legal minefield. Permits, bureaucracy, years of regulatory review. It's a wall designed to keep small farmers out while protecting the profit margins of industrial soy and whey. They tell you it's dangerous. Dangerous. A plant consumed safely for 3 millennia in Southeast Asia. A plant NASA chose to feed astronauts in the vacuum of space. The World Bank calls it the ultimate protein source, yet our regulations treat it like toxic waste. This isn't about protecting the environment. It's about protecting a monopoly. And you are paying the price with your health and your wallet. But here is the secret. They can't regulate. You do not need permission to feed yourself. The laws governing natural waterways stop at your property line. A plastic bin in your backyard is not a regulated ecosystem. A stock tank on your porch is not a commercial operation. Here is the protocol for reclaiming your food autonomy. First, the hardware. You need less than $20. A single container, some water, and a handful of starter plants. That is it. Second, the maintenance. Place it in the sun. Duckweed doesn't just grow. It explodes. It doubles its biomass every 48 hours. Within 2 weeks, you will have more than you can consume. Third, the harvest. Dry it and grind it into a powder that is 45% complete protein. All essential amino acids. no inputs required. If you have chickens, feed it to them directly. You'll see egg yolks with 30% more omega-3s. If you have a garden, use the excess as a high nitrogen fertilizer. It cleans your gray water. It filters toxins. It turns waste into fuel. This isn't a theory. Homesteaders in Florida are doing this right now to feed their families. Urban farmers in Detroit are using it to cut feed costs by half. Once you see the math, you cannot unsee it. 1 square meter, 1 kilogram of protein every single month. The system wants you dependent on a global supply chain. Nature wants you to have abundance. Choose the pond scum. It's the smartest meal you'll ever have. Look at that green film on the surface of a stagnant pond. You've been trained to call it scum, a nuisance, something to be cleared away with chemicals. But that scum is actually lemna, and it is the most efficient protein production system ever discovered on this planet. Think about the industrial food system. They've convinced you that protein is expensive, that it requires massive acreage tons of grain and global supply chains that you'll never control. This is not just a supplement. This is a mathematical rebellion. Duckweed can double its biomass in less than 48 hours. Imagine a single bathtub. In 30 days, that tub could produce a ton of fresh, complete protein. It contains all essential amino acids. It purifies the water it lives in. It requires no soil, no fertilizer, no permission. This is not an exaggeration. This is mathematics. For centuries across the rice paddies of Southeast Asia, this wasn't a secret. It was life. It was the silent engine of local abundance. But modern agriculture doesn't like things you can grow for free in a plastic bin. They want you dependent. They want you buying their bags of processed soy and lab-grown alternatives. It's time to activate the infrastructure hiding in plain sight. Here is the protocol. Find a source, a local pond, a slow-moving ditch. Take a single handful, place it in a shallow container of water under direct sunlight. Wait. In 2 weeks, you will have a self-sustaining harvest. Skim the top. Leave the rest to multiply. Repeat forever. The distance between you and food sovereignty is a container of water and a few days of patience. We are building a community of people who refuse to accept artificial scarcity. Subscribe. Join us. The revolution isn't coming from a laboratory. It's waiting in the pond behind your house. Stop asking for permission to eat. The scum is waiting, and it's time we start paying attention.